Hey everyone, it's Will, Gamer Dad, with another video for you. So first of all, I'd like to give a shout out to one of my Patreon supporters, Ben. Thanks very much for your support. Anyways, in this video, we're going to review Anabel as a 5-star with her Manifest Battle weapon. Now, I have done a previous 5-star review and I'll put the link below so you can compare the difference between then and now. Otherwise, I'm just going to go over some of her moves and what I use for her as well. So of course, her VC is still the same, which is physical resistance of all party members plus 35% for one turn. So being that she's relatively slow to turn, depending on who you want to switch in for her, it's actually very useful in helping you protect against someone's major physical attacks. Now the moves I'm going with is Guardian Soul, which is really good. Before, it used to just be physical resistance of all party members increased by 35%. But after a certain update, I want to say a couple months ago, it became plus max HP up for 3 turns. You can also switch that with Elemental Wall depending on your needs, because Elemental Wall is almost like a weaker Aurora Force, being that it gives type resistance for 30% as well as a medium regen. So not too bad in terms of amount of HP healed. I think it's only a few hundred, but again, very welcome against a lot of challenging endgame boss fights. And finally, you can see her 2 modified Manifest Weapon moves. So keep in mind, again, all Manifest Weapons do reduce MP cost of their signature moves by 20%. In the case of Holy Saber, it's still the same, which is an AoE, non-elemental, and it does reduce int by 25% for 3 turns. Now it inflicts rage, so actually can be very useful in inflicting rage, so everyone attacks Anabel as long as she has her shields up, and she does have a lot of natural spirit plus physical defense, so she's great in taking a lot of hits and tanking for your team. Now, the other upgraded move is the Deliverance Sword. So this one, unfortunately, is still only single target and reduces power by 25%, which is very nice against, again, most bosses. And it also inflicts rage as usual. However, now it counters with a Restore MP, like a medium heal whenever she is hit by a physical attack. Now, if you've already done Anabel's Manifest Weapon battles, you'll see how effective that is. Obviously, that was boosted up, but, for us, it's still very, very nice, which I'll show you shortly. Now, you can see the unmodified moves are quite a bit more expensive and have less effects. And I just go over their board there, and you can see her traits so that she can get, AF finishers. She is water-based, so I do have one Water Grasta on her, but, we're not using her Splash Sword very often. However, with the advent of, Japan having AS Anabel and she can create Water Zone, that will be very useful in the future. So let's take her out for a spin. In any case, Holy Saber, although it's relatively mana intensive, can still wipe out most enemies, and being that it's non-elemental, enemies can't really resist it unless it's resistant to slash. Now against some horrors, and I realize this one's only a level 49, let's just show you what it's like to use Deliverance Sword as well as Holy Saber. So keep in mind that Deliverance Sword inflicts rage and power down, and if she is hit by a physical attack, she'll counter with a heal. Now note that the rage and the power down faded, and that's why we don't see it there. And keep in mind that that's supposed to have countered with a MP heal, so I'm not really sure what the reason is. It looks like it was a magical attack, unless I'm wrong in that sense. So let me know in the comments below if you've experimented with Anabel's counter and see how that does. Now note that she got hit by a physical attack there, and she heals for 1200 HP, which is actually quite a substantial amount. If you think about it, even pure Cradle only heals about 1900, maybe 2000, depending. So, very nice, and it essentially is a free heal. And in conjunction with Rage, she can heal multiple times in one turn. Now, we're going to take on Suzette's final Manifest Weapon battle, being that it was one of the tougher ones to challenge, especially being that it was the first one, and a lot of other Manifest Weapons had not been out until, much later. Remember that she came out with, I believe, is it Shion and Mighty? Anyways, on purpose, I did equip lower weapons, that is non-manifest weapons on all of our team, other than, of course, Anabel, just to showcase her skills and abilities. So keep in mind that because Suzette does not have the manifest weapon on, we are not going to be using demonic thrust very often. We're going to be using her original dragon salt, which does significantly less damage, being that it's not enhanced by any weapon. She is using a +8 Okanactos, which I did use, until now. So it does reduce MP cost as well as increase elemental damage by, 16% or so. Now, if you haven't already, make sure you like and subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate it. Also, I do have a Patreon account for those who want to support me this way. So remember that Suzette does have a strict 4-turn rotation, and the far left one is the one that boosts the entire team. So you want to eliminate that one first as soon as you have a full AF bar. Now again, I realize that nowadays you can probably zone it out, 2-turn, finish the whole battle, but obviously this video is for, players of all different varieties and progress levels. Now note that being that we put a Deliverance sword already on the far left one, we got to counter with a 1200 heal, and you can see that even with the poison and the pain and whatever, they were easily able to survive now that they heal, since it wasn't tied up. We could use Mariel to remove status with Refresh Leap while it heals for free. And again, the combo of Deliverance Sword followed by Holy Saber essentially means that anyone who's attacking you multiple times in one turn, you'll just heal over and over again. And once you cast, in this case, I use Guardian Soul, being that this attacker is mostly physical in nature, you're having 35% increased shielding. Now another heal. And another heal. It is great. So we're at full HP, and with Guardian Soul increasing your max HP, you're essentially almost invulnerable. I wouldn't say completely invulnerable, but for purposes of this particular battle, it's pretty straightforward. And another heal. That's great. And yet another heal. Sweet. Another one. And another. Okay, so again, at this point, we're just going to, get our AF bar high enough so we can just use a full AF bar, or as much as we can, and wipe out the far left one. After that, if you watch my original battle against the level 10 manifest weapon, the other two are much easier, and you can see that I'm already coming in to set up the VC. Note that because of the speed difference, I used Anabel to switch in Amy last to increase the speed of the entire team, as opposed to using Mariel to switch in first. So remember that you should use the different speeds of your characters to stack whichever VC you want to activate last. And I would recommend having speed as one of your boosters during VC. Now bear in mind, we have a whole wind team here, so we use our first turn during AF to cast High Wind Booster with Morgana, and we just targeted all our attacks on the far left Suzette. Now also keep in mind that Azami is not using her manifest weapon, so she only uses the Adamantium Sword, so there is no 3-turn culmination wind nor multi-hit with that. So bear in mind that the culmination winds only lasted 1 turn, in which case we only have 1 turn to set up, or you can do it during the first round in AF. Now in this case, the rest of the battle should be pretty straightforward. For purposes of demonstrating what we're up against, I'm just going to just do my normal strategy and keep on attacking the enemy over and over until the enemy is dead. Okay, so again, even without manifest weapon, I would say that Azami is very powerful. Now I've had a lot of people who aren't at the end game yet, and they've either just received Azami or halfway through the story. They ask whether or not you should be upgrading Azami or some of the other gacha characters. Now bear in mind that my opinion is always the same. Upgrade the first 3 free characters you get, because they each cost 5 chance each, of course, which is Azami, Garyu, and Serene. Bear in mind that Azami and Garyu already have their manifest weapons, and in order to fight for AS Garyu, which activates Fire Zone, you will need to already have a 5-star OG Garyu. Also bear in mind that Serene will come out with a manifest sometime later on as well in Global. So in order, I would alternate either with, honestly, depending on what you need on your team. If you need Fire Zone, definitely go with Garyu first. However, Azami is a much easier battle, especially since you can actually beat it with a bunch of 4 stars and half decent gear. I did put a back to basics video on how to beat Azami with just a bunch of 4 stars, and if you have any 5 stars that do significant damage against Azami, you'll have absolutely no problem. And again, with a combination of the same thing, Guardian Soul as well as Deliverance Sword. Note that I'm not casting Holy Saber, being that realistically there's only one enemy. You don't need to rage all three. But in this case, because there's no magical attacks, I only used Deliverance Sword to target the one character. If there were the 3 Suzettes on the team all at once, you can rage all 3 against, to taunt, to target Anabel using Holy Saber. So, I'm not demonstrating any boss that's attacking with magical attacks. Although I really do want to see the magic counter. I'll probably play around with that, another time. Okay, so keep in mind that, again, if you wanted to, you can totally activate an AF here and end it. In my case, we're just going to play it down and then activate an AF when we're full. This actually was pretty good exercise in that by not equipping all the high-end hardcore manifest weapons, this battle was a little bit more challenging, especially almost like the beginning. Although I will say I have more Graston now than I did when I did the first battle. So obviously my damage has been modified quite significantly. I can see that the challenge as well as the difficulty level, especially for some of these manifest battles, can be quite difficult. So I really hope that whichever stage you're at, whether or not you're in the beginning, middle, or at the end game, don't be too discouraged, because at the end of the day, all the content is still here. If you're free to play like myself, you will be gated out of some content, being that you won't have the ability to pull everybody. And honestly speaking, if it's too difficult at one point, you can always put it off until much later on. Like in my case, I haven't tackled on Ukwaji 155 only because I don't have Water Zone, and I don't really want to play around with using a Galliard team or anything like that. So in conclusion, I do think Anabel with Manifest Weapon does fill a lot of holes, being that she can rage entire parties against her. And in conjunction with her kit, she can modify herself to deal with both physical bosses or magical bosses, and really handle herself in any situation. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.